Hey everybody, it's Kev Hempel here with Freestone Reconstruction and B. Taylor Painting. We are several weeks in now to the shelter in place here in California, and today we actually have a very special guest, Mr. Bryan Balch, who is looks like it's a business turnaround. He is a master life coach and speaker. He has been a friend of mine that I met a couple years ago, and I wanted to have him on the video today because he had written a blog post about being a transformational leader as opposed to an informational leader. And what ended up happening was I had read the post, was challenged at work with some things that I was being very poor at my leadership. I contacted him. We were able to have a quick conversation, and within like 15 minutes, he turned my whole process around and made me realize that I was actually being just an informational leader as opposed to the transformational leader. And so I was able to then call my team back and make some changes quickly. So we're always learning in this world. So Bryan, so for now we have Justin Pastorius, who's an account manager at Freestone. We have Eric Olson, who is an account manager at Freestone Reconstruction. We also have Janet Quinn from Quinn Dennis, I'm sorry, from Pro Solutions, is it?
Quinn Dennis, Mediation and Consulting.
Mediation Consulting, and Mr. Bryan Balch. So Bryan, why don't you go ahead and do the full intro on yourself and get into this discussion of what you can teach us about transformational leadership.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys and share some perspectives and philosophies that I've used over the years. I've been working with different businesses, either as an executive director, an executive, or as a consultant for over 30 years in leadership positions. I've worked with large companies and executives in those companies, as well as small independent businesses. So I've got a vast knowledge of experience working with different industries across different states and even in a couple of different countries. And the one thing that I've always found is that everything is dependent upon leadership. If a company is going good, it's the leadership. If a company is going bad, it's the leadership. And that doesn't matter if you're talking about a little league team, a Girl Scout company, or a Fortune 500 company. And the basics of leadership cross all industries and all cultures. And it's all about how you treat your people. And it starts at the top, and it should start from day one. I'm a firm believer that you always have to begin with the end in mind. So it doesn't matter if you're just getting ready to start a company or you've been running a company, you should be thinking about the future and where you want to go. And I always tell people, if they're starting a new business, say, well, how do you see the business ending? When you get ready to retire, what is going to happen when you retire? Are you going to sell the company? Are you going to give it to your kids? Are you turn it over to your employees? Or what are you going to do? Because that's important to know from day one, because you should be planning for that, succession planning from the start. It's never too late to start a succession planning. And if you don't have one in place, everyone should get started on it. And part of that process is in developing your people. Too often businesses go with the concept that they're going to pay an employee just enough to keep them from quitting, and the employee is doing just enough to keep from getting fired. And that's the main reason why most companies don't reach the level of success they should get to. So what I've always tried to work with leaders of organizations is that if you focus on developing your people and helping them become all that they can be, they're going to grow your business. The phrase is, if you grow your people, they'll grow your business. If your people know that you're caring about them and trying to help them, they're going to care about your business and try to help your business. And part of that process, I think, starts with the initial hiring process. When you're hiring for somebody for a position, you should never just hire them based upon the qualification for that job. You should automatically be thinking, is this somebody that can grow into the position above that or the position above that? So that once they start, you're helping already to develop them for future growth into the organization. Anytime an organization has to hire outside for an executive, they've made one of two mistakes. They've either didn't hire someone that could develop into that position, or they weren't training them all along. And what that does is that creates animosity within the company. People start to want to exit because they see that there's a ceiling on their growth opportunity. You should always be promoting upward and hiring at the bottom. If you're having to hire people in at the top, then something is not right and you're not developing your people. And some people say, well, some business owners say, well, I don't want to train them because if I train them, then they're going to leave. But the only thing worse than that would be to not train them and have them stay. So it's important to always be developed. I think it was Richard Branson that said, you want to train the people so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they want to stay.
Right, right. Bryan,
yes.
Eric, you were shaking your head. You want to take yourself off of mute? There's something that Bryan had kind of really touched on. Did you have
Sure.
it?
Describe most of the management companies I've ever worked for in the HOA business. I mean, I can think of a few exceptions, but I have some very personal experience dealing with exactly the problem of what you described, where you said employers do just enough to keep their employees employed and not enough, and the employees do just enough to not get fired. I mean, that spoke huge to me. And then your last thing where you just said, you know, the only thing worse than training him and having him leave is not training him and having him stay. You're definitely speaking to me. So that's what I was nodding to.
Good. I appreciate that.
Yep.
And just yesterday, I'm currently working as an executive director for a nonprofit. And I was talking to our bookkeeper who also does the payroll. And I go, we need to train somebody to know how to do payroll. That way, when you go on vacation, we don't have to schedule your vacation around payroll, and it's good to cross-train so people can develop. And I have a program director. I'm blessed to have a program director who's been with the agency for almost 20 some years. And she said, well, and now she's getting up there in age. I don't want to say actually, but anyway, she looks younger than she is, but she's getting up there in age, and she's been here for 20 some years and lives nearby the place. She's not going anywhere. She's going to stay here. And I said, well, while she would be competent to learn how to do the payroll, I said, we have a young receptionist. I said, why don't we teach the receptionist to be the payroll? Because at some point, she may not want to be here forever. And that way we can give her some skills while she's here so that we can help her move on in her career. I always tell people when I hire them, I said, look, some people when I hire, they may develop and stay with me for 10, 15 years. And other people, this is a pit stop on their growth process. My goal anytime I hire somebody is to try to get them to stay with me for 2 years. And during that 2 years, I may tell them, hey, I may not be able to pay you a lot of money, but while you're here, you're going to learn a lot. I'm going to pour everything I got into you and help you learn and grow, and give you stuff to add to your resume. And when you leave, you're going to say, hey, I may not have made a lot of money, but I learned a lot. And I tell them, when you're ready to go, you don't have to call in sick to go for job interviews. Just tell me you're ready to move on. I'll write you letters of recommendation. I'll give you the time off to go find it. But while you're here, I want you to help me, and I'm going to help you get to where you want to go. I always start with employees. What is it that you want to do? How do you see working here helping you get there? Because that's what I want to do. I want to help you get to where you want to go. And while you're here, I want you to help me as best you can. And that way it's a win for me and it's a win for you. And I have so many people out there that have used to work for me that whenever I go and say, hey, I'm working with this organization now, they'll call and say, hey, do you got any openings? Hey, do you got any openings? And that's a compliment to me to know that they want to come back and work with me. Because even though you do have some people that you'll train, you'll say, man, I spent all this money training them and they left, you're going to get more employees to come work for you because they're going to be out there talking about you. Hey, I learned this there. Hey, I learned that there. So people are going to want to come, even if you're just a training center, you're going to get quality work out of the people. So you have to shift from what's the employee doing for you to what are you going to do for your employees, because the more you can do for them, the more they're going to do for you. Even if after they leave, they're going to speak highly of you. They're going to say positive things about the organization, what they learn. And so then people are going to be more interested in coming to work for you.
Bryan, do you consider that a formula, or do you consider that what you're talking about like a process and procedure? Do you like, where are you pulling the information from? How does it all formulate for you?
I think a lot of it just comes from trial and error and learning from my past mistakes. And and I mean, a lot of it is that. I mean, and again, every day you have to intentionally try to grow yourself. I believe growth is intentional, it's not accidental. And so, I mean, you're going to grow old no matter what, but your growth and your skills and stuff, you have to be intentional about that. So every morning at 5 o'clock, I'm trying to read a book, and I'm studying during the day whenever I have free time, and I pay attention to what I let into my mind. I don't let negative things come into my mind. You have to be the gatekeeper of your thought process, and don't let all the negativity in, and stay focused on the positive and what's going to help you. And I think all of the philosophies and stuff just come from life's experiences and over time, and then trying to share those with others to shorten their learning curve.
Gotcha. Justin, do you have a question for Bryan, or something you want to speak to that what he's talking about?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said just now, I mean, protecting your mind at all costs, and in some ways controlling what you're allowing in as far as positive things is vitally important. And you know, I tell my kids all the time about raising big people. And I tell my kids, I said, you guys are going to do greater things than me. And in the business realm, like, you really want to be in that mode of the people that are underneath you, like, raise them to be great. You know, I've worked for so many companies that wanted to kind of pigeonhole you because you were good at one thing and leave you in that one thing. And it created such a sense of burnout, not just with me, but with people that I worked with. And they're like, what? I just feel like I can't move, and they feel like they're suffocated. And then back to what Eric was saying, they only want to do minimal, because if this is where I'm going to stay and there's nowhere to go but here, then I'm just going to figure out how I can do the least of this thing as possible. You know,
you're right. You're absolutely right. In thinking about this discussion today, yesterday when I was driving on the highway, gave me an idea for a future book. Is the leader of an organization really shouldn't even have any experience in that business. And I can say that in that every job I've had, and even when I was traveling for a year and I worked with 30 different companies in 18 different industries, every business I went into to work with, I had no prior experience of working in that business or knew anything at all about it. Like one company, one of the first companies I went to was a custom countertop manufacturing company. I didn't know anything at all about countertops or anything at all about manufacturing. I'd never even been in a plant before. And I ended up staying there 9.5 weeks working with them. And at the end of any given day, they could have quit working with me if they didn't feel like they were getting value. And I stayed there for over 9 weeks, and I had zero experience in the industry. And I truly think that if you think about it, the CEO of PG&E has probably never climbed a pole or never put in a gas meter. AT&T, same thing. I'm sure whoever their CEO is probably has never installed a phone in his life. So you really don't have to have experience in an industry to lead that business. In fact, I actually think it's beneficial, because as a leader, even with this nonprofit I came into now, we're working with DUI offenders, people that are driving under the influence. I don't have any certification as a DUI counselor. And I told the board when I interviewed for the job, I really don't even have a desire to learn it. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to teach DUI classes. There's a need for it. We already have qualified people here. All I want to do is develop the people so they can become better at what they do. And I think as a leader, when you go into a business, the important thing is to be humble and to say, I don't know everything. I'm going to look at your expertise, and I'm just going to help you get better at what you do. Then you get the trust and the rapport from the people, because now they know that you're not there to just give them information and to tell them what to do and to tell them that you're the know-it-all and that you're the one that you're going to do it my way or the highway. That just creates dissension and makes people want to leave. But when you respect each other and say, hey, look, I don't know what the answer to this question is. I got to refer to you. You have 10 years experience. What do you think we should do? And then you just tell them, hey, we're going to try it this way. And if it doesn't work, we'll figure out something else and try it. And if that doesn't work, we'll figure out something else and try that. We will continue to try things until we find out what works. And then you also encourage people not to be afraid to make mistakes. As a transformational leader, that's the first thing you have to do, is make the people feel safe to where they're not going to get disciplined or yelled at or ridiculed. If they make a mistake, you have to encourage the mistakes, because that's where we all learn from.
Right. Bryan, Janet, did you have something to speak to that?
Oh yeah, that's a hot spot for me. I was lucky enough to work at a law firm where my supervisor and mentor, even to today, taught me that the only way I could grow is if I felt safe to do that.
That's
And
correct.
so he taught me, and I passed on to my own employees. I have tears coming up, because so important to me that I am their supervisor. I am responsible for their mistakes. So if you make a mistake, let's learn from it. If you repeat a mistake, then there might be some things that we have to look at. But it was the single most important thing in my own growth process was feeling safe that I could try new things and not worry about screwing up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Bryan, how does, and Janet, or any of you can speak up too. So if a leader or executive should maybe not have the experience within that company or that industry, so that they can really come in and not have sort of some biased opinions on things, is what I'm sort of thinking of. How does that work then if you are somebody that started, you know, as they say, from the bottom and really worked their way all the way up the ladder? That, let's say for our construction company, they started as a laborer, went to a carpenter, went project manager, went all the way up, and now they're sitting in that position. Is that how does that work internally? Does that make sense?
Yeah. The way that works internally, if you're being a transformational person, is you're not just teaching them the skills of being a carpenter and then become a foreman, but you also have to teach them the business side of it, how to do a budget, how to prepare bids, you know, how to handle payroll, the personnel cost that's really involved. It's not just their hourly wage. You also have to teach them about the payroll taxes, and you also have to teach them about vacation pay has to be calculated into the hourly rate that you're billing at, because you're still going to be paying them when they're off on vacation and travel time. And so if you're just a business person, you can come in and handle all that regardless of what the business is. So as you're transforming your people, like I have a young employee that's going to college right now, and her goal is to one day run her own nonprofit. And I said, good. I said, if you're interested, when I sit down to do next year's budget, if you want to, you're welcome to sit in while we do the budget preparation, so you'll learn how to do that. Now, she's just a clerk that takes payments. But I said, if you want to learn how to do budgeting stuff, that'll help you when you graduate from college and get ready to start your own nonprofit. And so she's all excited about that. I said, you know, I can help you with how to write an employee handbook and what the things you want to include in a handbook. And so it's all about continuously developing them and helping them get to where they want to go. So if you have a construction foreman that you say, hey, you know, if you want to take over this business one day, or if you want to start your own business, you're going to need to know how to do the bidding process. Let me teach you how to do that. So then you're continuously developing above and beyond just the traditional method of promotion. I hope that answers the question.
Got it, 100%. So yeah, that makes it inclusive, right? Instead of exclusive. Like you're including that person, that particular, you know, future leader, whether they consider themselves a leader or not now. That's awesome. You know, when you had said that a kind of leader, it's almost better if they don't have it for potentially your next book, which I think would be awesome. I thought of the kind of concept where a lot of industries that were demolished or just rewritten or had a revolution came from people or companies or ideas that came from outside the industry. So something that I recognized in my past life was that, like, I worked in construction. I had some ideas about technology. I left construction and the common interest development industry, got into startup companies with apps and social media and different things, and then learned so much there, but then got pulled back into the construction common interest development industry and was able to bring the stuff that I learned from the tech world into this industry, and then went, here's some innovative ideas that we could try. So, you know, and I had heard also one time that it's always good, if you've been in an industry for a long period of time, test drive some other stuff to see what they're doing and kind of coexist within each other. So I appreciate that.
And that's a perfect example. If you had just been in construction, you wouldn't have been able to bring that digital and other stuff into the mix.
Yeah.
And that's why when you see 3 or 4 doctors decide to start their own medical group, they've all been great doctors. They've all been surgeons and stuff. None of them know how to run a business.
Or they may be terrible communicators.
Yeah, and most of them are very good at what they do, and they're used to just barking out orders in an emergency room. And when you get into an office setting and just barking out orders, you're going to have lots of employee turnover and problems because they haven't developed that skill set. That doesn't mean they're not great surgeons,
right?
But the business, that's why a lot of times in a medical setting like that, where they start a group, it doesn't take them long to figure out, hey, we got to get somebody that understands business to handle the business aspect of this, because this is not our expertise.
Right. Huh, that's awesome. Well, Janet, we have time for just one more thing. So what did you have for Bryan?
I've got so many things in my head. Okay.
I know these aren't long enough. I think we need to make them longer, but we're going to hold it to 20 minutes.
I don't know whether I'm totally on board with no experience being a really good thing. So I'll just talk about my stuff. In my company, when I started out, I was a clear choice to make sure every person I hired, first of all, at the hiring stage, I absolutely agree with you, at the hiring stage, you find out where people's interests lie. And in my business, it's very much a people organization, it's a relationships organization. So I felt like I could train them to do anything within my process. So that was good, but there's certain things you can't train. So they either have to have it or they don't. But I believed in us being interchangeable parts. And so I would assign a trainer who had been with me for quite a while to every new employee, and they would train, take every step of what we do and have them work with an employee until they attain that step one and then step two. And meanwhile, they would always check in with me so I had an idea of where that was going. And that way, we also got to find out where people's strengths were. There were people that were really good on the telephone, and that was a huge thing in my business. And then there were people that should never go on the telephone. And so being able to identify that was very important. But within that whole mess of training, I also believed in doing goal setting for each staff member that came with me during that evaluation time. That was not only my goal setting for them, but their goal setting, because it was just as important to me that they thought they were a good fit within the company, not just whether I thought they were a good fit in the company, because I do agree with you on all of your philosophies of, if you don't train them, you don't train them well, they're gone, and they can take everything with them, in today's digital life. But I do believe subject matter expertise has to be involved in that process. That's a passion of mine, and I have to be able to, if it's not me that's doing it, hire people that can.
Right. So, and to your point, I'm actually agree with you. Maybe I didn't say it the right way. Like, for example, when I started this DUI program, or came onto this DUI program, they've been around for 20 years. They have people that are certified and can do the stuff. I don't know how to do it. I really don't have a desire to know how to do it, but I have read through and learned what the requirements are and the Title IX specific are, so I have an overview of it. But knowing that, I depend upon the expertise of my key staff to do things. And if they don't know it, then we hire somebody to come in and do the training and stuff. So I'm just saying that to actually run an organization, you just need to have you don't need to be the one that knows everything, but you have to have somebody that knows the different key components of that. Yeah, and it makes those people feel more valuable when you do that.
Yes.
Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you're talking, Bryan, it actually makes me think of like a city manager or a governor or president or whatever, right? They don't know the expertise on every little thing that could potentially happen throughout a whole city. So they got to hire the experts to help them figure that out and make the bigger level decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And John Maxwell talks about that being the law of the lid. If you're running an organization and you're the one that knows the most about everything, the business can't grow any further than you grow, and you're literally holding people back. That's why if you just kind of are the orchestrator of the band, and you just hire the best, trumpet players and the flute players and the drummers, and you just coordinate everything, then you can continually grow and make great music.
That's a great analogy there with the orchestra. I played trumpet all the way through high school, and I know my teacher kind of knew the trumpet, but he didn't know the intricacies of it. So that's a great example.
Right.
It really forces you to lean on the people that you have there. Like if you get to a point, you have to just lean on them to say, what do we do next? Where else do we go? So,
and you get buy-in with that.
Bryan, I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody coming on. Why don't we go just a quick round and say what we are grateful for today, and then let everybody go, and then you can finalize out, Bryan, by letting us know where we can find you after we have this moment of gratitude. So
Sure.
Justin, go right ahead.
Today, I am most grateful that some of these construction restrictions have gotten lifted, and our guys that have been laid off are going to be able to get back out in the field and make some money for themselves and their family. I'm super, super happy about that.
Eric?
Actually, Justin just took my, I was going to say the exact same thing. Just very happy that the restrictions are starting to kind of lift. It's just a general sign that things are hopefully trying to move in a positive direction for everybody. And as it just so happened, I got awarded a job today, so I'm grateful for that too. So
All
Great.
right.
Great. Janet, what are you grateful for today?
Technology, really, because I'm isolated, day 39 of being in the house. And I feel like the only reason I haven't been one flowing over the cuckoo's nest is because of things like this. So I don't worry as much today as whether I put makeup on or, you know, I'm in my corporate best. You know, I actually have my yoga clothes on with a jacket on. So I'm like, okay, thank you. Thank you for doing this, Kev. Thank you for everybody for participating.
And then I'm most grateful about a lot of the things that we learned today from Bryan, and Bryan for answering the call. You know, it was just a shot in the dark of just let me reach out and see. And you wrote the blog, you got the message, you heard all that stuff. And the note I have is Law of the Lid from John Maxwell. So I'm going to take some time to look back into that and see what's going on there. And I really appreciate you coming on. And so tell us one thing you're grateful for, and then let everybody know where they can find you.
Great. Well, I'm grateful for this opportunity. There's nothing I enjoy more than being able to connect with people and to try to add value in some way. And I believe our purpose in life is to be of service to others. And I'm grateful for every opportunity when I can provide that service. And so I appreciate the platform. I appreciate what you're always working on, Kevin. And it's nice meeting all of you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And easiest way to reach me is by phone. My phone number is area code 925-699-8151. And you can also reach me on my website, www.bryanbalch.com. And my email address is bb@bryanbalch.com.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for everybody watching. Thanks for coming on, and make it a great day. And we'll be back here next week doing something similar. So thanks.
Thanks,
Keep
Bryan.
making a difference.
Thanks,
Thank
Bryan.
you guys. Take care.
Have a blessed
Bye-bye.
day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.